Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand TV. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal brand and business development company. I want to take you on a journey through another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal stories, business conversations, and tips to improve your brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand TV series, you will differentiate yourself from the competition and build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build confidence, and reflect who you are. Building your 5-star personal brand is a great way to improve your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or any of my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh@5starbdm.com. Now, let's begin with our next episode on the Follow the Brand TV.
Five-Star BDM, Brand Development Masters, is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for the small to mid-sized business and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share business development challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement and operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our business and personal branding company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. This results in more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Visit www.5starbdm.com today to learn more.
Job to have, because I could travel all around the country and talk to physicians in all walks of life, all specialties, everything, and be able to hear about their hopes and their dreams and their frustrations and their burnout and their joy. Doctors link arms for the benefit of patients. We are an incredibly powerful voice. Okay.
Welcome, everybody, to the Follow Brand Podcast. This is Grant McGaugh, and I get to go all the way out to the Southwest. I don't go to the Southwest very often, but when I do, I'm telling you, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. They got all kinds of scenery out there you can't see anywhere else. We're talking about New Mexico. And there's one person in particular in New Mexico that we're going to have a really good conversation about. She's the former CEO of the American Medical Association. She's been practicing oncology for a number of years. And we want to understand her brand. We want to understand why she chose Her Health Oncology to come and speak to a group of people about women's health in Orlando that's going to take place in October. But we want to get to know her a little bit. So Dr. Barbara, would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly. I wasn't the CEO of the American Medical Association. I was the president. The CEO is a person that we have hired who manages the day-to-day. The president is the spokesperson for the American Medical Association. And it was a great job to have because I could travel all around the country and talk to physicians in all walks of life, all specialties, everything, and be able to hear about their hopes and their dreams and their frustrations and their burnout and their joy.
I know they kept you busy, I bet.
It did keep me busy.
So let's talk about your journey into the realm of being a physician, into oncology. As we rewind the clock just a little bit, tell us a little bit about your journey and why you chose this as a profession.
Well, when I was in medical school, I did a rotation on the acute leukemia ward at the University of Iowa. And I fell in love with every patient I took care of. Because when you have a cancer patient, they reach into their heart and they find strength they never knew they had to fight the scariest thing that they have ever fought. And they also start to really focus on what's truly important in life. And they stop sweating the little stuff, right? Cancer patients would tell me, even as a medical student, their hopes and dreams and what they were afraid of and what they wished they'd done differently throughout their lives. And usually you don't have those conversations until you've had 20 years of friendship with someone. But with cancer patients, they are so open and so strong that I was just inspired by them every minute of the day. And I just decided this was the group of people I wanted to work with.
Well, that is a great reason why. And I agree with you. There's those things, and when you're at your most vulnerable and you start to take away some of the things that we probably take advantage or disadvantage of on a daily basis about, these little nicks and knacks that are going on in life's journey. But when you're facing you're having a near-death experience, basically. You don't know exactly when it's going to happen. You take off the gloves, right? So there's no bar, nothing's barring you from saying whatever it may be. And when you find that special place in your heart and you begin to speak from that location, and I've seen a lot of people do that. I think it's so impressive. They say, wow, you're at, a very vulnerable time. Time is precious. And you're sharing with me some very good intimacy. Maybe it's for me to understand how I can live my life better and move forward. I think that is wonderful. So you got into leadership, but before we even go there, I want you to tell us a little bit more, because you do some things around hematology. I don't think a lot of people know what that is.
Well, most oncologists are board certified in both medical hematology and medical oncology. And oncology rose out of hematology because the first cancers that we were able to treat were the blood cancers, lymphomas, leukemias, etc. And solid tumors were harder. And so it took a while for oncology to branch out of hematology. But a lot of us will do both. And I started out in my career, I wanted to take care of every cancer patient in New Mexico. Obviously, that's impossible, but that's what I wanted. But then you start to, after you spend a few years, like 10 or 15, really trying to be the best cancer doctor you can be, you start to see patterns in things. And that's when you start to develop leadership, saying, I can see some of the root causes of what we are facing here, and we need to address those as well. And for me, that's what stimulated leadership. For example, when I was a brand new baby oncologist, and I just had seen a consultation in the hospital, I did a consultation for a gentleman who was 45 years old and had metastatic lung cancer. Brand new diagnosis, but it was clearly incurable. And I was down in the doctor's lounge after seeing this, kind of recuperating and clutching my cup of coffee. And I was ranting to some other doctors about why on earth do we sell a product that when you use it the way you're supposed to on the package insert, it kills you. And so I'm referring, of course, to tobacco. And a crusty old urologist came over to me. He heard this. And he said, well, are you just going to sit there complaining or are you going to do something? And I said, I'm one doctor. What can I do? He said, well, I'm appointing you. I'm president of the State Medical Society, and I'm appointing you to a committee of people who are interested in trying to curb tobacco use, prevent kids from getting hooked on it, help adults get off tobacco, and see if we can't prevent some of these cancers and heart disease and low birth weight babies and all the other problems that tobacco causes. So I'm appointing you to that committee. And so I learned from that when doctors link arms for the benefit of patients, we are an incredibly powerful voice. And it takes a long time, but 10 years later, New Mexico had a Clean Indoor Air Act for the entire state, where people have to go huddle outside to smoke. And our smoking rates have dropped considerably from that. And I learned from that leadership means getting in there and doing the work, leading by example, but having the vision of what it is you want to try to accomplish, and then pushing forward for that.
Barry, I am so glad you took that on. I remember when Big Tobacco came under fire, and you used to see it in everything. You see it in the movies, you see it in the car ads. If you wanted to be, the pretty person or the most interesting person, you had to have a cigarette with you, right? And who remembers John Wayne? And then all of a sudden, the Marlboro Man dies from lung cancer. You're like, whoa, maybe there's something here. But they finally got some legislation done, and things started to unravel. And you said, like, look, this is bad. This is killing people. We need to really get the message out here. This is not a good product. And I think there's other products even out there right now that we may not be aware of that are critical, especially when it comes to diet, exercise. These things can lead to like an oncology episode or something to like that effect, because your immune system could be compromised. Just talk to us a little bit more about the things that you're seeing now, and then some of the innovations that you believe could possibly be impactful.
Well, for medical innovations, obviously learning what genes mutate that make a cancer cell different from a normal cell. If you have a breast cell and it's sitting there doing what a breast cell is supposed to do, it grows, and then when it gets older, it dies off. If it mutates and becomes a cancer cell, it doesn't die off, it just grows and grows and grows. And so now, as we start to learn, what are those mutations that occurred in that cell, in that cancer cell's DNA, that led it to become immortal, to let it become invasive? Now we can take some of those genes and we can target drugs to block them. And this is a way to use the body's own immune system to fight cancer. When I was a medical student, they promised us back then, oh, someday the immune system for the patient will fight the cancer. And nothing happened for many years. And I thought, yeah, right. But now we're seeing it. And it is amazing. We see, half of the patients or more that we see now, we can cure. And the rest, we can often prolong their life. Some we can't, but we're still working on things. But it's really made an enormous difference. And the other thing that's made a huge difference with these drugs and with other medicines that help us control the side effects of both cancer and the drugs we use to fight it, that has made, the control of cancer so much easier, because people aren't scared to death of nausea and vomiting. And patients tell us that their first fear, of course, is dying, but their second fear is nausea and vomiting. And if we can prevent that so that people can get their treatments, we've made a huge step forward. So both the drugs are better and the support drugs are immensely better.
Field that I'm in right now, which is digital pathology, it's an emerging field. And only in 2017, US FDA approved using these digital scanners for primary diagnosis. And that is when people started digitizing the slides on a very large scale. Similarly, in the field of cancer as well, it is not just these features, but it is the spatial arrangement of those features which matters a lot in diagnosing, the cancer type.
Congress to address a significant gap in medical conference landscape, particularly in the area of women's health within oncology. We recognized there was a need for a specialized platform where healthcare professionals could focus on unique challenges and emerging trends in this field. Our goal was to create a forum where experts could share knowledge and collaborate on improving outcomes in healthcare, especially women's health, an area that is often being underserved in broad medical conferences. Oncology Congress stand out because it offers highly specialized focus on women's health oncology. It's a totally women's health oncology conference. Unlike broader healthcare conferences, we delve deeply into specific challenges and innovations in this niche area.
Yeah, it used to be, when you got the big C, you got the big C and everybody knew that was pretty much, it could be over. And you hear a lot of people now that, the cancer's in remission or even if they're in a stage 3, stage 4, they fight on. And sometimes, they get a diagnosis and you get 6 months, and now it's been 6 years. So there's other things that are happening that were before maybe not so much. So I like this. Now, here's the question. As we look at the population of people, and you see this, from your lens, when you start talking about, health equity, you start talking about accessibility and affordability, are those kinds of treatments and diagnosis reaching the greater population or only a few? What do you think?
I don't think it's reaching as many as it should. And I think there's several factors that we need to think about as a country for this. Well, the first one is there's a shortage of physicians. Almost 20 years ago now, the American Society of Clinical Oncology did a study looking at whether or not we were training enough cancer doctors that every patient with cancer could see a cancer specialist. And we weren't. And they figured that there would be a shortfall of about 30%. And that was before we started keeping those patients with metastatic disease, those stage 4 patients, alive for years and years and years, which is very labor intensive. So first of all, we have to look at this shortage. And secondly, we have to look at the way our healthcare system has evolved. And this has been the focus of a lot of my personal work. Our healthcare system, unfortunately, is perfectly designed to make large corporate entities a lot of money and power. Big corporate hospitals, insurance companies, pharmaceutical manufacturers, pharmacy benefit managers, a bunch of consulting firms, they are making a lot of money on healthcare, but it is increasingly hard to actually get healthcare to people, particularly poor people, particularly disadvantaged people, people of color, people who do not have the resources to go out and advocate well for themselves. So I think we have a long way to do, but I think that we've got to unstack those odds, because I didn't go into medicine to make a big corporation CEO make millions of dollars in salary. That was just not high on my list of things I was interested in doing. I went into medicine because I wanted to take care of people. It's one of the reasons I came to New Mexico, actually. Because coming to New Mexico, which is a majority-minority state, where we not just have diversity, but we cherish it and enjoy it and support it, and that this was a community where there was a huge need. That's why I came here. It wasn't to make corporate CEOs wealthy. So I think we need to get back to those roots and look at our mission to figure out what do we want out of healthcare in the country. The other issues is just geographic. If you live, 40% of Americans live in a rural area. A rural area, by choice, does not have all the amenities of Boston or New York or Los Angeles, right? They're not going to have huge hospitals and stacks of office buildings full of specialists. And so we have to figure out a way to get care out of those urban areas and get it into the rural areas, because that 40% of Americans who are rural, as well as the people who live in the disadvantaged areas of our cities, deserve care too. So having people travel to a big urban center just doesn't work when cancer becomes a chronic disease. If you need a surgery one time, you need your heart operated on, you want to go see the guy who operates on your heart and everybody else's heart, 5 times a week, not once a year.
Yes.
I can understand that. But the medicines that we use and the ability to give radiation, they actually don't care who's on the other end of the needle or who's pushing the button on that machine. Those things that keep cancer a chronic disease are local, and they should be local, because people have to, the goal of treating cancer is to have people live their lives while they're treating their cancer.
Well said, well stated. And we've got to take all these things into account. I'm a big believer in improving our healthcare system and getting back to what it's supposed to do, and that's to keep people healthy throughout the entire life cycle for that individual. So that gets into prevention. I know you do a lot around policy. You're going to come down to Orlando and speak to women's healthcare at Her Health Oncology in October. I want to know, why did you decide to do that, and what kind of message do you want to bring to the audience?
Well, I am a bit on a mission to talk about how we could restructure our healthcare system. So my career in policy really started both at the AMA, but also where I learned a lot of the theory of health policy. And I learned so much hearing about what the issues were that others were facing, and how Medicare worked and how insurance companies worked, and just learned all of that. And then I've been fortunate in that the members of my practice have allowed me to use my practice as sort of a laboratory to put some things into place. So for example, in 2012, I received an Innovation Center Award from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation for $19.8 million. And what I had done that earned me that was I figured out that whenever a cancer patient went into the hospital, their quality of life decreased. Even if they didn't get a blood clot or a bad infection or something else, they deconditioned and they were never quite as strong and healthy when they came out. And so I started working with the practice to figure out, how can I prevent people from ending up in the hospital? And so what was the earliest trigger that somebody was going to get in trouble? And how do I intervene before they get in trouble and prevent that hospitalization from ever needing to happen? And we called that process Come Home for Community Oncology Medical Home. And that was actually an eye-opener for me, and actually for a lot of people in the oncology space, because if you pay attention to what's going on with your patients, not just order the chemo and stop thinking about them for 3 weeks till they come back for the next dose, you can really make sure that they're doing well and that they are properly managed, their side effects are taken care of, both of the cancer and the drugs, and keep people out of the hospital. And for patients who have perhaps a limited amount of time, and certainly a limited amount of energy, spending as much time as possible in their home with the people they love, instead of in a hospital wearing those lovely gowns and having somebody poke you with a needle every morning, is a huge quality of life issue. And so that kind of led to the oncology care model and some of these other changes where people have started to focus a good bit more about that. To me, that's what health policy is. It's looking at what you can do systematically, not just the patient in front of you, but including the patient in front of you, and make lives better.
Who sort of understand the power of technology, but also understand that, you know, healthcare, medicine, it is about people. We are in the humanity business. Well, look, you know, I think myths and disinformation affects the whole industry, from the life sciences space, the med device space, the payer provider space. I think if we all tackle it together, there are ways to partner with life science companies, med tech companies, and patient advocacy groups, right?
To answer your question, how do I envision this in the realm of personalized medicine? I feel we still need to be on the track to address those problems. We shouldn't deviate ourselves to maybe creating new problems by taking on new technology. We should still focus on what the problems are and try to bridge the gap between misdiagnosis and correct diagnosis with AI, and then see what more can be done with biomedical imaging and intelligent diagnostics. And I would say you can think global but act local. Like you can think big about personalized medicine, but then focus on what problems are there right now, and try to solve that one by one, tick it off, and then move forward in the technology.
Well, look, I think mis and disinformation affects the whole industry, from the life sciences space, the med device space, the payer provider space. I think if we all tackle it together, there are ways to partner with life science companies, med tech companies, and patient advocacy groups, right? Because it does help. It does help in terms of patients being aware there are treatments, funny names being made mainstream. One of the things we saw during COVID was people, knowing the name of vaccines. That never had occurred before, right? Did you get the Pfizer shot? Did you get the J&J shot, right? That was kind of funny, humorous for doctors because no one's ever asked us that before, right? It was just the flu shot before. And so in some ways it does raise awareness. In some ways it raises education, but it always is the right balance and the right partnership. And I'll give you a simple example. So as a rheumatologist, we give some pretty complicated biologics, and there are a lot of side effects. So when the commercials say, liver disease, renal disease, and they narrate it out, it's the truth. But by having that introduced to my patient in tandem with me, then we talk about it, and I'm able to say, look, the reality is there are side effects to this drug, just like there are to Tylenol, by the way, if you look at the side effects of Tylenol. But when managed correctly, when we partner together, when we do blood work regularly, when we dose things correctly, when we monitor your symptoms, those are unlikely. The risk benefit in medicine, we always weigh the risk and the benefit. There's always risk. You cross the street, there's a risk, right? But the benefit is you get somewhere, you're going somewhere. And if you're mindful, right? Simple analogy, you look left, you look right, you look left again, you make the dash. It's unlikely, right? You're going to have that risk. So that's the important piece, is how do we actually all still empower the patient-physician relationships. And so I think there is a role for life science companies, med device companies, to empower that relationship. It really comes down to that. Same with the technology. I'll say it again. If you are not getting between the doctor and the patient, you keep the humanity in the center. And the more you can take all of the other inefficiencies in the background away, that's the key. Those are always going to be the strategies, the technology strategies that work. Those are always going to be the mis and disinformation strategies that work. And we just have to get back to basics in many ways.
100%. Well, I can't wait to have you come down and deliver that type of message to other oncologists. The one thing that makes this conference different is physicians talking to physicians, and they're not backed by other big pharma or medical device companies, things like that. They're having an open conversation. There'll be obviously exhibitors and some sponsors there, but this is an open dialogue on a national scale, because they're going to be people from all over and have conversations. You've got Moffitt Cancer Center there. You've got City of Hope there. You've got Advent Health. You've got some others. So how can we affect change? Going back to what you said earlier about that, I'd say, hey, you don't like cigarettes. What are you going to do about it? It's a carcinogen. What can you do? So now this is something, we're not just talking about it. let's do something about it? How can we make a measurable difference, especially when you already have stated that when you see someone going through cancer, and it is a journey, no matter how they might have how they project on the outside. And the inside is a very frightening situation. There's a lot of unknowns there. And as you just alluded to, that the treatment could be just as painful or severe as the disease, so it's a catch-22 all the way around. Talk to us about, as an oncologist and what you know, and you're talking to a patient. I want you to talk to me as I'm a newly diagnosed patient. I just realized I have cancer. I don't have any idea what I'm about to go through. What would you say?
Well, the first thing is you have to be honest and you have to be clear, but you also have to understand that on that first visit, what the patient hears most is, oh my God, this is me we're talking about, right? And all the details are in this haze of, oh my gosh, this is me. So my theory is that you have to tell everybody things at least 3 or 4 times for it to cut through the fear and let people actually think. So usually what I will do on that first visit is I'll explain what the patient has. If it's curable, I will tell them that. If it's treatable, I will tell them that. If all I can do is promise an easy exit from this planet, then I do tell them that. But I also schedule another visit, and I also talk to them about the fact that we're going to be there for them. And I write it down. So first of all, I think face-to-face conversation is preferable, but I also don't do these things by telemedicine. I want to be able to sit there and hold that patient's hand or hug them or pat their shoulder or whatever feels appropriate in the moment to be able to say, we are here for you, we're going to take care of you. And then when they've gotten through that and I've written down what their cancer is, I've drawn maybe a picture of what's going on or shown them pictures, and then I say, we almost always need to do some staging tests, or I need to get some genetic workup done. Then we bring them back and we go over it again. And then when we're ready to start treatment, we go over it again. And I also then at that point have my oncology nurses go over it again and explain the medicines, and we give them information. And I also tell patients that if cancer was not your major interest in life before this diagnosis, you don't have to switch your whole life around. You don't have to read every book on cancer. You don't have to listen to what everybody is telling you. And I tell my patients that you will be surprised by what I call Great Aunt Melba stories.
Right.
That people, they don't do this to you if you've had a heart attack or broken in your bone skiing or something. When people have cancer, there are a lot of people who come up to them and say, oh, you poor thing, you have cancer. My great Aunt Melba had that. It was terrible. She suffered. They say all these bad things and everything is, and the poor patient is dissolving in front of their eyes because they're just getting their fire is fanned and gasoline's being thrown on it. So I say, beware of the Great Aunt Melba stories. You don't know what happened to Melba. Who knows? She might have been hit by a bus. You don't know. But when you hear a Great Aunt Melba story, have your answer ready. Say, thank you for telling me that. I didn't really need to hear that right now, but maybe we can talk more later, or something that gets you out of that conversation. Or they'll tell you, you have to read all these books, or you have to go to my church instead of your church. You can only eat, grapefruit every day. People will tell you how to run your life. If you broke your leg, they wouldn't tell you how to run your life. So I tell my patients, you don't have to listen to all that. You are still you.
That is a beautiful statement and great advice, because you're someone who deals with this on a daily basis, and usually the patient, this is their one and only time, most hopefully, that they would have to deal with it, and they have no idea what this is about to go through. And you just said it, you're going to do some self-diagnosis, you're going to go to Google, you'll Google everything, you'll come home with some weird groceries or whatnot, and then you do all kinds of stuff. So it's nice that what I got from you, what you just explained to me, was human to human. It wasn't, doctor to patient. It was human to human. Yes, you have a situation. Yes, this is what we're going to have to do through this. Yes, I'm going to help you through this. You can trust me, right? And that feels good, because I want to ask you this: is there mental health therapies that are available to cancer patients? Is that something outside of your scope or not?
No, it's very important for cancer patients. I mean, being told you have cancer is pretty depressing, right? If you understand what's going on, you're probably a bit depressed. So we've not always done a great job of recognizing that and treating that. And as an oncologist, I'm actually not very well trained in managing depression. And unfortunately, one of the healthcare issues in our country is that there are not enough mental health professionals, and there's a huge stigma against going and getting help, particularly men. It's like, I'm strong, I can do this, I'm fine. It's like, maybe you're not. So what we're trying to do now, I'm working with a new company that can provide telepsychology support or telepsychiatry support, because unlike oncology, where I want to be able to touch that person and hold their hand while I'm giving them news they don't want to hear, it's interesting that people will tell a little screen almost anything. I mean, just go look at Facebook, right? They'll tell anything. So telepsych seems to be one of those areas that really works. And so that's helping me in an underserved area like New Mexico, where we don't have much in the way of mental health resources, to be able to hook my patients up and get them the help they need. Now, if they need a prescription, I'll prescribe it, but it's very helpful for me to have a psychiatrist say, this is the right antidepressant for this patient, and this is the dose I want you to prescribe.
Follow the Brand TV broadcast host, Grant McGaugh, as he visits with top executives and entrepreneurs to find out their secrets of success with their personal brand. Follow the Brand TV broadcast host as he focuses on brand development to build better relationships, bring value to your business, relationships, and career. You will enjoy listening to each episode that is tailored to speak to you directly. If you're looking for this type of clarity in terms of building your brand, you have tuned into the right station. Each episode will help you to shape a conversation in the 5-star BDM network of 20,000 professionals and become a springboard for your corporate engagement and business opportunities. Each guest will frame their story in the areas of personal branding, business development, career development, financial empowerment, and technology innovation. Grant McGaugh explains why he is the CEO and owner of his own professional career. Grant is an accomplished business leader and entrepreneur who wants to give back to individuals to grow their personal brand strategy. Tune in as he weaves his story about new possibilities, while to you exceed expectations. If you love storytelling, this show will make for fun.
Man, who's your favorite podcaster? Man, Grant, man. I love Grant's podcast. Well, who's Grant? I'm going to send you the link. I love Grant.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say that speaking with Grant is always a wonderful experience. he makes conversation feel light and comfortable, like speaking to a friend in a bar, more or less. He managed to create intimacy in matter of minutes, which is something that I believe technology is not yet able to generate and create and to reach such a level. And I certainly hope that it will never be able to reach that level. But this is always wonderful to speak with Grant, and I truly recommend it. Thank you, Grant.
Grant McGaw, CEO of 5-Star BDM, is turning heads in the healthcare and information technology sectors with his groundbreaking approach to personal branding and business development. By challenging conventional strategies, he's setting a new standard for how executives present themselves and their businesses to the world. McGaw's expertise isn't just about standing out. It's about strategic guidance, generating leads, and building networks that propel executives beyond their competition. His focus on authenticity allows leaders to leverage their unique stories, driving exponential growth and success in their industries. Beyond branding, McGaw is a fervent advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. He's committed to helping organizations cultivate environments where innovation and collaboration thrive through inclusive cultures. And for those eager to dive deeper, McGaw hosts the Follow the Brand podcast. Here, he unpacks the intricacies of personal branding and business growth, offering valuable insights for professionals eager to redefine their identities and share their narratives with the world.
That's very important. Very important. They have to go hand in hand and look at the holistic situation that the patient is going through. And very good advice there. You're also part of an alliance.
Yes.
And I want you to talk to us about that. And then how do you feel the future of oncology will look, especially with all these new tools, digital tools that are coming on the scene?
Well, periodically I remind myself that the profession of being a physician evolved out of the priesthood, right? I don't think we're going to be replaced by an app. And I think people want to know that there's another human who actually cares about them as a person and is going to help them get through this tough emotional thing, right? So I also think that there's a right size to practices. This will not be popular at the Her Health conference, but I will say it anyway. That big systems run by hospitals are maybe not the best way to manage a chronic illness. That hospitals are designed for emergencies, and I got very sick very quickly and I need to be someplace at 2 a.m. where they can take care of me. People are going to have car accidents, heart attacks, and babies at 2 a.m. Somebody better be there for them, right? But for managing a chronic disease, a hospital is not the right section. It's twice as expensive, if not more, and it's a little bit impersonal. And I find that this affects the physicians as well. When I went around the country talking to physicians, I found that there were different kinds of burnout from doctors who worked for big systems as to worked in an independent practice. And in big systems, it was lack of control and not ability to manage your immediate environment, and the feeling that at the end of the day, you went home, you were working for the CEO's bonus, right? Instead of for the patient. We just did, so the organization you're referring to is called OnCare Alliance. OnCare Alliance. We are a group of about 34 independent oncology practices, physician-managed, physician-owned, scattered across the country, coast to coast. I co-chair it with a good friend of mine named Dr. Sibel Blau. And what we are doing is helping those independent practices find best practices, be able to do research together, to learn to use data to improve what they do, to be able to do purchasing together, to survive the economics of healthcare together, and to be able to have a foundation to help patients with the non-medical needs that they face, back to the social determinants of health, and to educate the younger physicians in our practices how to manage a practice. So it's a very collegial group of like-minded practices. And we actually did the AMA burnout survey for a subset of those practices and discovered that they scored about 10 to 15 points better on the burnout scale than the physicians who were employed by big hospitals. So I think there's a message there. And if a physician's burnt out, the first thing that goes is their empathy toward a patient. And you can't do this work without being able to see the world from your patient's eyes. And if you lose empathy, you've lost everything. So I think our job now is to give both doctors and patients options, to make sure that independent practice is available for managing cancer as a chronic disease in the communities where people live. This fits right back into the idea of rural healthcare, underserved areas, making sure that we get those resources out to patients. And that's a lot of what I have been working on and what this alliance is all about.
And thank you for doing that. I love that. I love your mission, your vision, your values. Getting back to real practicing of medicine and what it's all about, and helping each other, and not get sucked into someone else's initiative that not always align to what you want to accomplish. And I think there's a lot of push and pull a lot in the healthcare delivery system, and you've got to have your stake in the ground. This has been wonderful. I'd like for you to let the audience know how to contact you, whether it's via LinkedIn, is it just an email, or just look you up online at your facility?
Well, I respond to email, though lately I'm getting hundreds of them every day from every politician wanting money for their campaign. So I'm drowning, but I will respond to emails. That is just my last name, McEnany, at nmohc.com, New Mexico Oncology Hematology Consultants. It's the name of my practice. .com. And I'm happy to communicate with people and to hear their ideas. I think that one of the things about the healthcare community is that we all came into it because we wanted to do good things for the people we serve. And good people tend to have good ideas. And sharing good ideas helps them grow. And when any one of us does something better, we are all lifted up by that.
I 100% agree with you. I cannot wait to see you in person in Orlando at the resort, October 26th and 27th. You're going to kick everything off. And if you love this podcast, you're going to love coming out to Orlando. It'll be virtual as well if you cannot travel. But this has been wonderful. I want to thank you again for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. This has been fun.
You're welcome. Ready to build a 5-star brand that stands out and captivates? Discover the art of crafting a strong and memorable brand identity. From choosing the right colors to making your brand unforgettable on social media, we guide you every step of the way. Learn how to design a brand that resonates deeply with your audience, ensuring they not only remember but love your brand. Whether it's enhancing visual appeal or mastering social platforms, we have got you covered. Dive into the world of impactful branding with us and see the difference. Follow the brand for more insights and expert tips. Don't just be seen, be remembered. Join us now. Ready to elevate your brand and make a lasting impact? Dive into the world of the Fella brand where insights meet action. Shop now at our e-commerce store for exclusive merchandise that speaks to you. Transform, engage, and soar with 5-Star BDM. Your journey to brand brilliance begins today. This is an exciting time to be in digital marketing with the advent, the explosion of generative AI chatbots, better known as ChatGPT. There's Bard, there's Claude, there's all kinds of this new one came out called Gemini. There's so many different tools that really what it comes down to is that it's made my business more precise. I can do things more quicker, I would say, and to elevate my brand messaging to a level that allows me to be as creative as possible. Digital market economy is taking the world by storm, probably over the last decade or so, but is really escalating now in the advent of AI because it is a game changer for a lot of businesses. It's not just all the big boys that can play in this space because of cloud computing, because of mobile computing, and now you have these tools at your disposal. You've got a laptop, you've got a computer, you can now digitize yourself to a level and get your message out there, and that equates to business.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel. Our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, RTV.network.
The Black Business Expo's mission is to raise funds for high school seniors going to college or K through 12 entrepreneurs. This expo is a fundraiser for students. Please, you may go to www.blackbusinessexpousa.com to donate to the scholarship fund or use the Cash App at $BBXUSA. Our goal is to give laptops and up to $5,000 to 10 students. Students can register online at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com. Every dollar counts. Please donate to the Black Business Expo USA Scholarship Fund. Tune in for our next show or click on our website at www.5starbdm/followthebrandtv. Thank you.